Hey there, I'm Cicely Everson. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the Atelier. This is my podcast, and actually, this is my very first video recording of an episode in my podcast. So I'm actually excited to be trying out this format. I will still be converting it to an audio so that you can listen anywhere that you already get your podcast. So welcome back. If you're new to me or new to the work that I do, I am the founder of the House of Tao, which was formerly known as Tao Holistics for many, many, many years. So if you were with me from day one or from somewhere in the middle, you're probably more familiar with that name. Tao Holistics, and now the House of Tao, is my suite of holistic brands. It's literally my wellness ecosystem. And within that ecosystem lives Tao and Saloma. That's my full range of botanical medicines, mostly herbal tinctures, but also skincare, some fragrance, and just amazing formulas that I formulate in-house. They are esthetician and master herbalist formulated. I'm very proud to say I love my tinctures, my formulas. I use them every single day. People ask me, what do you take for wellness? What supplements do you take? What herbs do you use? I literally use what's in my line. And I use it because that's why I created it. When I realized the power of botanicals and how they can literally change your body at the cellular level, I was hooked ever since. And then I wanted to bring that healing potential to the rest of the world. So if you haven't tried them, you can visit taoandsaloma.com to take a look at the whole line. You can browse it, you can order. I am also in more than 80 retailers worldwide. It sounds so crazy to say that more than 80 businesses, spas, boutiques, cafes, solo and group private practices have purchased my line to carry into retail for their clients and their customers. It feels so crazy to say, so surreal, but I'm really, really grateful for the growth that I've seen with my brand. And of course, I sell on my website as well. So you are more than welcome to browse that and see what lights you up. I also have inside of my ecosystem Iyasu. Iyasu is my private clinical practice. This is the heart of what I do in terms of helping other people return to a better state of health. This is what is a fusion of clinical herbalism, functional medicine, energy medicine, Reiki, so many different modalities that are fused together to really personalize the sessions directly with my clients. So I work with people one-on-one. I also teach group workshops. I also have some short courses that can be found, some that are coming up as well. And I also have practitioner trainings inside of Iyasu. I do have what is known as the Iyasu method. Iyasu is Japanese for healing. Once you say it a few times, you'll get used to it. It's Japanese for healing, and that is because it is a mixture of East and West. So I practice an East by West approach to medicine, and this is essentially harnessing the power, the beauty of the patients, all of that of indigenous and ancient medicine from our ancestors, and I combine that with modern clinical science and the rigor, the cutting edge developments that we're constantly learning about. And so I absolutely love the work that I do. Iyasu is new in terms of the name, but prior to that, I was operating everything under Tao Holistic. So if you ever heard that, still the same thing, only getting better. And then the third piece inside of my ecosystem is my baby, the International Academy of Mind Body Medicine. This is my registered nonprofit where I run my education and my deeper practitioner training. So if you have ever seen anything about being a clinical herbalist or learning the art of herbal medicine and working with clients, you will find that within my nonprofit with more things to come. And my focus at this moment is on moms, specifically moms of kids who have special needs. Why? Because moms in general and dads, those parents who are typically looked at as the nurturer or the sole provider, or majority of the work lands on their shoulders, they tend to be women. It does not mean that they're always women, but tends to be women. And so that is just generally what my client base ends up being. But those types of caregivers in general, we put ourselves last, right? We'd like to say that we prioritize our wellness, our health, our beauty, our rest, but let's be honest, it does not usually happen that way. And so I really wanted to focus on, as a mission, moms who have children with special needs, because that is just another added layer that usually prevents these parents from sometimes even putting themselves on the list of caring for themselves at all. Forget about putting themselves last. Sometimes it's like they can't even remember the last time that they did anything of value for themselves to really move their wellness needle forward. And so you can learn more about my academy. You can visit CicelyEverson.com, and that will take you wherever you need to go. It will show you all of the brands inside of the ecosystem. You'll get to learn a little bit more about me, and as well as a link to the podcast, The Atelier. So welcome in. I'm super happy to be here. Today, I want to chat about something that's really important to me, and that is creating the identity that we want to see for ourselves. And if you're like me, time can go by so quickly, and you look up and you ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? Where am I? Where do I want to make changes? What am I happy with? What's working? What's not? And you're like, oh my gosh, we're halfway into the year. And that was exactly the revelation that hit me this morning. And I was like, we are halfway through 2026. It's time for a personal rebrand. Like, it is time for us to wipe the slate clean. And I want you to do this along with me. So if I'm feeling like this, I know I'm not the only one in the room. The reason why this is important is because we are not static individuals. We are ever changing. We are evolving. And sometimes our life tends to look the same because we are doing the same things, but there's that deeper part of us that is yearning to really just burst out and become what it was truly birthed to be, what your soul is truly craving. And so I want to challenge you today to use some of the prompts and ideas that I'm going to give you to really chart your course and to create the life that you want to see. This is not a magic pill. This is not some newly found, productivity hack or anything like that. This is just real life, real talk, real conversations, and good energy. And so I want to make sure that we talk about energy as well, because that is the root from which everything else is branched off. Okay, so when you stop to think about your life as it is right now, I want you to pretend that your life is in this box. You take a step back from this box and you are now seeing your life in 3D. When you really sit down with yourself and give yourself the space and the honesty to acknowledge what you see, many of us are mortified, right? Because you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 30 something, or I'm 40 something, or I'm 50 something, whatever age, and this is as far as I've gotten, or I have not touched that goal. I wanted to start that business. I wanted to write that book. I wanted to move to that new city. I wanted to buy that house. I wanted to create a savings for a college fund for my kids. Like, whatever it is, oftentimes we feel like we have missed the mark simply because we haven't accomplished something by a certain age or by a certain point in our lives. And I'm here to tell you, you are the only one who should be creating those standards for yourself. We have all been societally conditioned, okay? Let's just face it. Society has conditioned us and programmed us to believe that we need to look a certain way, feel a certain way, be a certain way, do things a certain way, work a certain way, live a certain way. And when that happens and you fall into that trap, like most of us do or have at some point, you do look up at one time in your life or another and say, what the hell am I doing? And so that's why I'm inviting you to do this personal rebrand. This is literally a mid-year reset point where you get to evaluate what's happening and then create the change that you want to see. So I'm going to just give you some informal things to think about. Now, the first prompt that I just gave you, that activity of stepping outside of the box and looking at your life. If you have pen and paper, this is where you take it out. I want you to think about what's working. Let's start there. I want you to make a list of everything that's working well in your life. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's working. And once you've gotten that list, I then want you to think about, are there some ways that I could amplify what's working? Like, not to be greedy, but can the things that are working become even better? So I like to play this game with myself, at least when it comes to my health and well-being. I play this game where I'm like, how healthy can I be? How good can I feel? Like, how good can I feel? Because if I'm intentional around answering that question for myself, that means that my actions have to lead to the answer. If I want to feel really good, that means I have to have daily actions and micro actions that are intentionally done to fuel me feeling better. And so that might mean taking my herbs and supplements consistently every day or twice a day, depending on the formula, depending on my health needs. That could also look like setting intentional goals, not just saying, I want to be healthier this year. That's not going to cut it. We need to get specific. I want to improve my A1C numbers. I want to lose or gain a certain number of pounds by X date. I want to commit to walking once a day or going to yoga 2 times a week. And I want to encourage you to think about a step that is so stupidly simple, you can't not do it. Because I am a recovering perfectionist, type A, like many of us. And it's very easy for me I like to challenge myself. It's very easy for me to set ridiculous goals. And I don't mean ridiculous in the sense that they're not attainable, but a little ridiculous in the sense that, like, girl, you're going to have to be like so consistent and like nothing else can allow you to lose focus in order for you to get this done. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but depending on my lifestyle, it might not be practical. And so I want you to think about what goals you want to set. You already have a list of what's working. So how can you make those things better, even if it's micro actions, small tweaks, tiny habits, okay? And there are actually a couple of books that tie in really well here on this topic. The first book is actually called Tiny Habits. I can't remember the author's name, but she has a community called Ness Labs. It's a fantastic community where it's just people like me, people like us who are getting together to bounce ideas off of each other, to share your tiny habits, to share the goals that you want to accomplish, and then to share a tiny habit that you'll commit to doing to reach that goal. But it really is deeper than that. This community dives into neuroscience, neuroplasticity, and the ways in which we can actually change the way our brains function. And we can. Our brains function because of repetition. Our brains do the things that they do because of the things they've always been used to doing. And so that's why if you continually think the same thoughts, those thoughts will create a feeling. That feeling will then create a belief, and an action, and then it's in the 3D. And that's what you're doing until you change that thought pattern or the habits behind it. And so that's one book that I would recommend. Another book I would recommend on this topic of habits is Atomic Habits by James Clear. A really, really, really fantastic book. I highly recommend that you pick these up or read them on Kindle or Audible. One of the things that I took away from Atomic Habits is the quote that he said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Meaning if you don't have systems in place around the things you say you want to get done, chances are they're not going to happen. You're going to fall to the level of your systems. If your systems are broken and you don't have plans in place, then it's sort of like just having a dream or an idea that you want to reach said goals, okay? So those are two things to consider using as a resource. So you know what's working. You may have jotted down some notes, some ideas around how you can amplify those things. Some of those things just might be doing something like more frequently to amplify the outcome of something that is working. It could be communicating better. It could be journaling or picking up a micro practice that is a no-brainer, but that you just need to make it easier for you to do it. If it is working out and you're resistant or hesitant to it, maybe it's keeping your walking or running shoes by the door. Maybe it's putting your workout gear out the night before. I've even heard of people sleeping in their workout gear. That way they can just get up, hit the floor, and hit the gym. Whatever it is that works for you, make it doable, make it stupidly simple. All right, so now I want you to think about what is not working. What is not working? Like truly, what is not working? And I want you to think about every facet of your life. When you think of the wheel of life, the literal wheel of life that encompasses all aspects, your health, your diet, that's a part of health, but let's break it up for this conversation. Your health, your diet, your lifestyle, spirituality, your career, work, fulfillment, relationships. And when you get to this part, you want to make sure that you are tackling not just romantic relationships, because that's usually where most of us go in our head, but also the platonic relationships, the familial relationships. What is the family dynamic like? What is happening between you and your friends, or maybe the relationships between you and your coworkers or your employer. So I really want you to dig deeply into those categories. Finances, that is a huge category that I feel like always needs some tweaking and reassessing, because things change, conditions change, jobs change, salaries change, inflation changes, cost of living. And so it's really important that you address each of these areas. I want you to think about that and jot those ideas down. What is not working? Like, what is a hell no, this is not working, this cannot continue type of situation? And what is a, this has potential, but something is just not clicking? Then that means there are some things that can be done to make it work. But I want you to be honest with yourself. What is not working? So think about that in the same way that we are going to now apply those tiny habits, those micro actions, those stupidly simple things that you just can't not do. The same way that we are going to apply those to make the things that are working even better. We can use those same strategies and tactics to apply to what's not working. Okay. And so now that you have looked at that, and also if you're a business owner, so for example, I'm a business owner and I also have a part-time job, and I have that part-time job because it is fulfilling for me. I work with youth part-time, and so that does bring me joy. And so it becomes very challenging at times to balance both worlds though. And when you run a business, chances are your brain rarely shuts off, if at all. And that can then bring in anxiety, that can bring in ADD, ADHD, can become really, really hard to focus. And I want to tap in here just for a second, because many of us have neurodivergent brains. Let's just be real and call it what it is. And you don't have to receive a medical diagnosis to understand you. Like, I want you to be more capable of listening to your body, observing the patterns, decoding them, or working with someone to help you decode them, and then starting to find ways to resolve those situations or to balance those situations. I definitely struggle with focus. I was not like this all my life. I've always had a busy brain. But I was always very creative. And so I think I chalked it up most of my life. I chalked it up to me just being creative, thinking about this idea, that idea, and, all of these phenomenal things. But when there's no way for them to be channeled and there's no action being taken, they just stay ideas and they just sort of take up space in your head. And so these days, definitely ADHD. Definitely have patterns of anxiety when I am not conscious about regulating myself. And so I want you to know, like, you're seen, you are heard. If that is you, you are not alone. And then on top of that, we can fall into pockets of depression that can be circumstantial, or they can be more clinical if it's something that you've dealt with for a long time. And what I've seen with my clients who have had chronic depression, they then become more frustrated that they've been on a medication for a very long time and they don't know how to get off. They don't know what to do. They just know that it's not making them any better, or they only feel marginally better. And so these are some of the pit stops where I come in as a practitioner and help clients figure that out, whether it's them adding me to their medical team to send a letter, or to talk with their doctor on their behalf to figure out a way to have them titrate down while using herbs that are not contraindicated, that will work well while they're taking a medication. Like, there are a lot of different routes that you can take to really find balance and to begin to see what works for you. Every body is different. Literally every human body is different. And so what works for me may not work for you, but might work really well for the next person. And so anything and everything is possible. I just want you to know that you're not stuck. You might feel stuck, but that's probably just because you've been doing the same thing for so long that it's literally like moving through slots of time that look exactly the same, because you haven't changed anything up. And so something as simple as, totally unrelated, but kind of not, something as simple as driving a different way to work. or school or to the grocery store or home a couple of days out of the week literally shifts you into a different timeline. And what I mean by that is we are run by our subconscious mind. Okay, 95 to 99% of our lives are run by our subconscious. Okay, and that is literally just like a recording, like a playback system. The subconscious brain, that is literally our life on autopilot based on everything that it has recorded throughout our lives, but especially our formative years up until about age 7. And so when you begin to fall into a habitual routine of going to the same place every day, work, grocery store, dropping your kids off at school or practice, that becomes what your brain just picks up as normal. And that's why we can just sort of get distracted while we're driving, and before we know it, we're at the place and we're like, I didn't even consciously like drive here, And so if you switch things up a couple days a week, or as often as you want to try this, it will literally put you on a new timeline, because now you are doing something different, which is starting to build, which is starting to shift the neuroplasticity in your brain and begins to build new neural networks. And so really, really fascinating topic. I am obsessed with neuroscience and biochemistry and understanding how specific deficiencies, especially around nutrients, how these deficiencies affect us on a physical level, energetic, mental, emotional, spiritual, all of that. That's really fascinating to me. And so if that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to hear your feedback, but I just encourage you to start reading on your own. And that community that I mentioned, Nest Labs, is a very cool place for you to start. Very inexpensive to be a part of the community for the whole year. And so, yeah, I want you to think about that. What can you do differently this week? What can you do differently? Because when you do something different, it shifts you to a different timeline where now by default, you're going to see different people, you're going to see different places, and you would just be surprised at how serendipitous this can feel, because you will start to have new and different experiences. Okay, so I'll leave it there. So when we talk about personally rebranding, you've got to look at what your lifestyle currently looks like. For me, I have 2 kids. I work part-time. I run a business. That's a lot. And I have to some days just really try to keep my head on straight to figure out what's happening. But that also is a result of poor planning on my part. And so no matter what your lifestyle looks like, you need to start becoming friends with planning. Now, I don't know what works for you. If you're someone who thinks you can keep it all up here, or maybe you use your Google Cal on your phone. Maybe you are a pen and paper person. I'm totally old school. I try to go digital. Right now, I'm half and half, but I'll never give up pen and paper, because number one, it's essential for retaining information. It's also essential for manifesting and attracting and bringing things into your life, not even from a woo-woo place, but from a place of, when you write, it has been scientifically proven that you retain much, much more of the information than when you type it on a computer or a keypad or enter it in on your phone. And so for me, I enjoy planning with pen and paper, but I will put important things or blocks of time. If I need to know what my focus time looks like, I will obviously put that in my phone. And I always create alerts for a meeting or an appointment so that it just doesn't like ooze out the side of my head and I forget about it. That's happened. That's disastrous. So we want to avoid that if we can. And so think about that. So we've talked about what's working in your life. We've talked about what is not working. We've talked about assessing all of the areas as well, with what's working and what's not working, everything, not just one area that sticks out to you, but Google Wheel of Life, and each category you want to make sure that you are doing your due diligence to make sure that you're giving it attention and assessing how things are going. We've talked about building micro habits and tiny actions, things that are stupidly simple not to do, like drinking water and staying hydrated. Simple, easy, right? But why are so many of us dehydrated? Because we don't intentionally or consciously make an effort to make sure to do it. And so what can you do to make that easier? For me, I love beauty and aesthetics. I'm a Taurus. Sorry, beauty is important to me. I love things that look pretty. It does not have to be expensive. But for me, the solution was just getting a really nice water bottle. It wasn't a $50 water bottle. It was just a really cute, aesthetically pleasing water bottle that I knew I would enjoy carrying every day. What did I do? I started filling it up with water and keeping it at my bedside. And then I knew that even if I was in bed, I didn't have to get up and go into the kitchen. It was so stupidly simple for me to reach over, grab the cup, and just start drinking water. Also, carrying it with me wherever I go. I don't care if I'm just running a quick errand, I always take it. I guarantee if this is an issue for you, that will make it so simple for you that you'll be upset with yourself if you don't drink the water. It's just too easy to not do. And so just find your gaps, your holes, and the areas where you know you're a little more susceptible to falling short, and then implement a plan to improve that. So now I have a really important question for you. It's 4 words, a 4-word question. What do you want? And I saved this question for last intentionally. When I really got honest with myself, thinking about rebranding, which I am doing some business rebranding too, hence the change from Tao Holistics to the House of Tao. And ironically, sidebar, I actually had a website called House of Tao, but it was spelled the German way of spelling house, Haus, years and years and years ago. Like I don't even know if I still own the domain. So I was on to something then, and then my creative brain took over and I took a lot of different, twists and turns. But anyway, when I sat with the idea of rebranding myself, because if you're a business owner, if you want to start a business or a charity or you're mission driven, whatever it is that is an extension of you, it is literally just that, an extension of you. And I say that to say, if you don't get you right, anything that is an offshoot of you is only going to be mediocre. And I don't do mediocre. We don't do mediocre over here. And if you do mediocre, this is the day that you change that. This is the day that you decide, I'm going to lock in. We're 6 months into 2026. Do you realize it feels like it was literally maybe half of that 3 months ago that we were saying Happy New Year? Like, life is life and it's real. And time is not waiting for you or me or anyone else. And no one is coming in to swoop in and save you. So you got to figure it out. But when I asked myself, what do you want, Cicely? I was and I've done this at different times, and I've actually also heard it being asked of me, like in seminars and things like that. But when I stopped and asked myself this question most recently, I was flabbergasted because I was so distracted by all of the other things in my brain and in my life, all of the little fires that we feel like have to be put out. And somehow we feel like they have to be put out only by us. That's false. That's not true. Maybe some, but definitely not all. But when I asked myself that question and I could not readily answer, I was embarrassed. And this was just a personal dialogue. Like I was literally just having a conversation with self. And I was like, wow, for me to be somebody who has so many goals, so I know what I want on a very superficial surface level, but for me to not be able to in detail list exactly what it is that I want and have a time frame attached to that, I was embarrassed. I'll just be honest. And it showed me that I was so distracted by life and the things happening that I lost sight of me. I was no longer putting myself first. Putting yourself first is not a selfish thing to do. I mean, if you want to call it selfish, okay, you can, but that just depends on what your idea of selfish is. It is self-preservation. It is self-regulation. It is self-safety. It is self-love. Because if you aren't taking care of you properly, it is impossible to take care of other people authentically. You can take care of someone else properly and just forget you, but you're not being authentic to who you are because God didn't put you here to be a servant to everyone else and to lose sight of you. And so I want to ask you that. What do you want? And I want you to think about it using all of the aspects on that wheel of life. Now, I do want you to notice what pops up first. When you think, what do you want? I can guarantee a lot of people watching are going to say, I just want like enough money to be like financially comfortable. Like I'm not even asking for a lot. I just want to be able to pay my bills. Like, first of all, we're going to, and that's okay. There's zero judgment because we've all been there, myself included. But we're not here to just be mediocre. Okay. We are here to play big. That doesn't mean you have to want all these material things with all this money. You can give half of it or all of it away if you choose. But the idea is that we were birthed to be abundant. We were birthed to share our gift. We were birthed to be a beneficial presence on this planet. And if you don't know what your purpose is, I guarantee you that if you do this exercise, writing and tracking what is working, thinking of ideas and ways that you can tweak and amplify what's working to make it even better, because you'll have more joy and fulfillment. If you track what's not working and you're really honest with yourself about what is not working, perhaps even why it is not working, what are your hell no's, what has to go. If you're honest with yourself, you will find your purpose. Besides being a beneficial presence on the planet, and that doesn't mean just sitting around and being lazy. It means making this world a better place. Because if you want more money, if you want a better job, if you want a healthier body, if you want to be slimmer, if you want to be thicker, if you want to have better relationships in your life, those are not one-sided. None of those things are. They all start with you. Literally anything and everything that you want to achieve or to get or to have or to do or to be, it all starts with you anyway. So I want you to honestly answer that question. And you can write it big and let that one sentence take up the entire page. Just write, what do I want? Question mark, and sit with that until you start to generate some answers. And I'd love for you to notice what comes to mind first and write that down, just like doing automatic writing. Doesn't have to make sense, doesn't have to be a sentence. Just get it on paper. Move it from your head to the paper. And then on the flip side of that, and maybe the following pages, I want you to ask yourself, using that wheel of life, what do I want in my career? Maybe it is a higher salary. Maybe you don't even fucking like your career. Like maybe you have been wanting to shift careers. Maybe you've been wanting to quit your job for years and you just haven't done it. Why? We can all make excuses, and some of them are going to be valid, especially if you're caring for other people, if you have kids, if money is a factor and all of that. But I want you to ask yourself, for each aspect, what do I want? And write down what comes to mind. And then I want you to ask yourself this. And I love doing this. I love to close my eyes and do this visualization exercise. In 5 years, what would I love for my life to look like? In 5 years, what do I feel? I don't want you to be stuck on, some of y'all are going to be stuck on the car that you want to be in, the house you want to be in. I get it. I'm a Taurus. I love the aesthetics. I love the beauty of it, where I want to travel, all of that. I understand. But I want you to focus on the feeling. In 5 years, what is my life? How am I feeling? And your feelings should be nothing less than joy, fulfillment, bliss, health, peace. That is what I want you to focus on. And when you focus on that as your North Star, everything else, if you're intentional, will follow suit. So when you ask yourself, or when you visualize where your life is in 5 years, today is the day that we begin creating that life, one step at a time. And as a friend just reminded me the other day, we can only eat the elephant one bite at a time. Not that I would ever eat an elephant anyway, but one bite at a time. Everything that feels insurmountable is actually achievable one step at a time, one idea at a time, one tiny action at a time, one day at a time. Some days, one freaking nap at a time, because rest can be productive as well. And if you're somebody who uses your mental energy a lot for work, if you care for other people for work, if you are a counselor, a therapist, if you have consultations, if you're a teacher, I mean, a nurse, I mean, anything. If you are on the front line, a first responder, like, rest can be productive. Do not forget to factor that in. I know it can be very easy to go balls to the walls and work until you are literally seeing double of everything before you shut it down at night. No, you've got to respect yourself and build boundaries so that you are caring for yourself, because that is self-love, tending to your body, nourishing your body, eating when you're supposed to, getting up and going to the bathroom when you're supposed to, not overextending yourself, and sleeping when you need to. And so think about that. What does your life look like in 5 years? And I want you to see in that visualization exercise, I want you to see what you look like. How are you feeling? What do you see in your environment? What are you wearing? What are you wearing? How is your hair? What does your skin look like? Are you wearing jewelry? What does that look like? What does your environment look like? Is it decluttered? Is it clean? Is it modern? Is it open? Is it airy? When you look out of your window, what do you see? Do you see the bustling city? Do you see the sand and the water? Do you see the ocean? Do you see a pool? Do you see a yard full of grass? What do you see? What do you see? I want you to write down everything that you see. But more importantly, I would love for you to make this a daily or nightly exercise where you visualize what it is that you see. And then as you are noticing your environment, you turn and you see a full-length mirror in that room in which you're standing, and you catch a glimpse of you. This is the higher version of you in 5 short years. What do you look like? What do you look like? One thing I know is that we can't get there from here doing the same things that we've always done. And so if you're serious about rebranding yourself, you just have to start. But don't start with empty goals. Start with the end in mind. And 5 years feels like a sweet spot, but you can change that to 3 years, 2 years, a year if you really want to get, if you really want to expedite things. The thing is, when you take different actions, which come from different thoughts, because what we think is what we believe, is what drives our feelings, is what drives our actions. And then we have what's in front of us in our reality. When we make those shifts, everything will change. Yes, sometimes incrementally. It does not happen overnight. But the thing to remember is that when nothing is happening, everything is happening. It's just all happening behind the curtains. And so I have to remind myself of that quite often, because I'm like, okay, I've been intentionally journaling. I've been doing the things. I've been dedicating part of the morning, part of the night to myself. And everything still looks the same. That's just with my limited 3D vision. It is not the end of the story. And you never know what is happening behind the curtains. So remember that, and you will be on your way to rebranding yourself. And if you have a business, this is where you start anyway. You need to know who you are in order to know who and how you truly serve, so that you can do your part in making this world a better place. So I hope that this was helpful. It's time to rebrand. This is your mid-year reset, and you are about to be different. And you're welcome. I will see you guys in the next episode.